All right, so Algebra Honors, this is Unit 8, our unit on quadratics. Day 4, we are solving quadratic equations using the quadratic formula. And this is our second video, so we already did the first part, and then we were kind of interrupted by the bells. So, we are continuing to solve these quadratic equations. And in these cases, we are solving using the quadratic formula. So you want to remember that your quadratic formula is x equals negative b plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4ac all over 2a. Remember, the whole point of solving a quadratic is finding the value of x that makes everything equal to 0. Those are your solutions, and oftentimes you have more than one solution. All right, so if we know that our equation, our quadratic formula is x equals negative b plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4ac, this is all over 2a. That's the formula we're going to use. So we need a and b and c. First, I'm going to say a is 9, b is 3, and c is negative 2. Okay, and now I'm going to plug all that stuff in. I know x equals negative b, so negative 3, plus or minus the square root of b squared, so that's 3 squared, minus 4 times a times c, all over 2a. Okay, so now we're just going to carefully, slowly, neatly, methodically solve this equation. So this equals negative 3 plus or minus the square root of 9 plus, let's see, 36 times 2 is 72. Hope I have that right, and it's all over 18. Okay, so I know that this is x equals negative 3 plus or minus the square root of 81 over 18. So x equals negative 3 plus or minus 9 over 18. So of course I'm going to break this up. That means that x equals negative 3 plus 9 all over 18. And also x equals negative 3 minus 9 all over 18. So I split this up. One side I have plus and one side I have minus. Okay, so 6 over 18 is 1/3. And negative 12 over 18 is going to be negative 2/3. So I believe that's my answer. All right, so we'll flip over our page. We're going to write our solutions in simplest radical form. So that means I can have a square root in my answer. I don't have to, and then I'm going to state the approximate solutions to the nearest 100th. So first I'm going to write my answer with a radical, and then I'm going to rewrite my answer as an approximate answer to the nearest 100th. All right, just a reminder, x equals negative b plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4ac all over 2a. That's my formula, okay, my quadratic formula. So here a is 1, b is 4, c is negative 6. So I know x equals negative b plus or minus the square root of 4 squared minus 4 times 1 times negative 6. That's 4 times a times c. And it's all over 2a, which is just 2, right? 2 times 1. Okay. X equals negative 4 plus or minus the square root of 16 plus 24 all over 2a. So x equals 2a. Forgive me. I don't want to say 2a. I want to say 2 times 1. I know what a is. 2a. A is 1, so that's just going to be 2 in that denominator. Oops. Okay. And so I know x equals negative 4 plus or, well, that's right, we're going to have a fraction anyway, aren't we? Negative 4 plus or minus the square root of 16 plus 24, it looks like 40. And so that's all over 2. Okay, I can simplify the square root of 40. It's 4 times 10, so I think I'm going to have negative 4 plus or minus 2 roots of 10 all over 2. Now check this out. I can simplify here, right? So I'm going to go ahead and simplify. So that equals negative 4 over 2 is negative 2 plus or minus 2 roots of 10 over 2 is just going to be the square root of 10. See, as long as I divide from the denominator into every term in the numerator, I'm okay. Okay, so x equals negative 2 plus square root of 10, and x equals negative 2 minus square root of 10. So if I write this, it's going to be negative 2 plus square root of 10, negative 2 minus square root of 10, and if I do that square root on my calculator, I'm going to find that I have about 1.16 and about negative 5.16. Those are my two answers. X equals 1.16 if I do that, and negative 5.16 if I do that. Okay, let's look at this one. So I have A is 2, B is negative 2, and C is negative 1. So I know x equals negative b plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4ac all over 2a. So I'm just plugging stuff in. So I know x equals negative of negative 2 plus or minus the square root of negative 2 squared minus 4 times a times c all over 2 times 2. So x equals 2 plus or minus the square root of 4 plus 8 all over 4. X equals 2 plus or minus the square root of 12 over 4. Okay. X equals 2 plus or minus, I know this is 4 times 3, right? Underneath the radical, so it'll be 2 roots of 3. Again, I can simplify, so I will. X equals 1 plus or minus the square root of 3 all over 2. I divided every term in my numerator by 2 and every term in my denominator by 2. So if I have 1 plus square root of 3 over 2 and 1 minus square root of 3 over 2, I'm going to actually do 1 plus the square root of 3 on my calculator, and then equals, and then divide by 2, and I'm going to find that that is about 1.37. 1 minus the square root of 3 all over 2 is negative 0.37. So those are my two answers, okay? All right. So let's think about the number of solutions we expect for each quadratic equation. We already talked about this. We said if we look at the discriminant and it's positive, then we're going to have exactly 2 solutions. We said if it is exactly 0, then we have exactly 1 solution. And if it's negative, it means we have no solutions. We don't actually touch that x-axis. Okay, so we talked about this just a little bit earlier as well. So notice that the discriminant, b squared minus 4ac, that's what's going to go underneath the square root bar in your quadratic formula. Okay, so this is the reason we want it to not be negative. If b squared minus 4ac is negative, we can't take the square root of it, and that's how we know we don't have any solutions. Okay? All right, so if b squared minus 4ac is greater than 0, if it's positive, it means we have 2 solutions. If it's exactly 0, we have 1 solution, and if it's negative, we have no solutions. All right, so the discriminant can be seen in the quadratic formula, and we're going to use the discriminant to determine the number of real number solutions for each equation. That's all we're doing. Okay, how many solutions do we have? How many times is it going to cross x? So here a is 1, b is 4, c is negative 15. I just want b squared minus 4ac. That's my discriminant. And so I have 16 minus 4 times 1 times negative 15. And so I have 16 minus 60, plus 60, sorry. Negative times negative is positive. And so this equals 76, which means 2 solutions, just because one option was the discriminant is positive, one option is the discriminant is exactly 0, and one option is the discriminant is negative, and so that's how I figured these things out. Do you want me to blow that up for just a second? Discriminant is positive. We have some sort of a parabola that crosses that x-axis 2 places. It can be an upward or downward parabola. Okay, we don't know until we look at the whole quadratic formula. Quadratic equation, I should say, I guess. Quadratic function, that's what I was looking for. If we have exactly one solution, we could either be opening up or down, depending on our whole function. But we touch that x-axis exactly once. And if we don't actually touch the x-axis, we'll have no solutions. Okay, so let's look at number 2. A is 1, B is 3, C is 11. So if I want b squared minus 4ac, I'm going to have 3 squared minus 4 times 1 times 11. So I have 9 minus 44. So my discriminant is negative. Since my discriminant is negative, that means I have 0 solutions. Okay, 2 more on this page, and we might need a break. X squared minus 6x plus 9. I feel like I could factor that right now, but I'm just thinking about the discriminant. So A is 1, B is negative 6, C is 9. B squared is going to be 36 minus 4 times A times C. Well, that's 4 times 1 times 9. So I get 36 minus 36 equals 0. So my discriminant gives me 0 as my answer. But I know that that means there's exactly one solution.